Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to talk about basically shifting our mindset from thinking about what is impossible to considering what is possible. And by doing so, we shift our belief system and how we prepare ourselves for the possible. So let's get into it. So I'm sure you've heard the saying, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. And that just kind of speaks to the power of our words and the power of our intentions, because as soon as we say something, as soon as we say it can happen or it won't happen, we start to behave in a certain way. We start to have certain behaviors and actions and mindsets that kind of lead us there anyway. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, it's kind of giving a lot of power to you. And certainly in the space of low fertility and infertility, there's not a lot of power that a lot of us feel like we have. And even thinking about low fertility, thinking about, these miracles of, oh, someone was trying for 7 years and eventually they were able to bring home their baby. We tend to think those type of things, the impossible, is possible for someone else. Yeah, you've heard the stories. Yeah, you see that, that happened for someone else, but very rarely do we truly believe that that impossible situation can really, truly happen for us. And, why is that? Why is it that we think that someone else is the exception, but we are not? Why is it that we think that someone else can achieve achieve the impossible and we cannot? And I think a better question is to start to think about, okay, how did they do it? If you change your perspective that way, that's more useful, that's more beneficial. You can do something with that. So if you start thinking, okay, how did they do the impossible? How did they do this thing that seems like it's never going to happen for me? How did they figure that out? Was it a miracle? Was it just luck? Did they find some magical herb? Did they find some magical bean? What is it that this person did, this woman, this couple, what is it that they did that kind of changed the game for them? And, again, that's the more interesting and the more important question, because most likely it wasn't luck. Most likely it was something that they did, that they changed. But it still is sometimes hard for us to get there, to get to even thinking about that, to get to the how did they do it. And researchers actually have, kind of looked into our mind, looked into our psyche, and looked at our brain and saw that there are parts of your brain that shut down those type of thoughts, like that make you think, oh, it's never going to happen for me, because it's safer. Your brain is set up to kind of protect you, from thinking about things and pursuing habits and pursuing actions that are considered risky or that could put you at risk or put you in danger. And certainly putting you at risk for, setting yourself up for, failure, or setting yourself up for hurt again. Those are risky kind of thoughts and behaviors. And so there's a part of your brain that is, meant to shut that down, close that thought process off, and prevent you from pursuing those things. But actually there's a second part of the brain, a different part of the brain, that actually thrives and strives and it actually lights up when you think about these impossible things, when you think about these amazing things for your future. It actually will kind of get, stimulated. And there's a thought called neuroplasticity, and it's, used for things like Alzheimer's and how to, keep the brain and the mind strong. But it basically talks about the way that you can train your brain and actually grow or kind of stimulate and strengthen certain parts of your brain. So there is a way to kind of dead all that, is never going to happen talk, and stimulate the part of your brain that allows you, tells you it's safe. It's safe to dream this impossible dream, which of course I'm never going to say that none of this is impossible, but I know that that's how a lot of us think, that this is really hard thing. It's this Herculean thing. Of course it's impossible. And that's the way that, it's presented, that is this hard, this big, this massive to get pregnant when your body isn't able to get pregnant yet, when your body is struggling to get pregnant, in my case, struggling to get pregnant again. And so it becomes like this big thing. So of course, it's easier for our body to kind of shut all that down. But if you start to work more on your intentions and more of your manifestation and feeding and supporting and nurturing those positive thoughts of, no, it is possible. It is possible. And, if we start to think about, what if we start thinking about that thought, that line of questioning is also more supportive, because when you start thinking about the what ifs, you can start to make a plan. You can start to strategize. You can start to get more connected. So if you start to think about, okay, what if I do end up pregnant? For me, it was 2 years. What if I do end up pregnant in a few years? What if I do, end up having a second child and not just, my daughter? What if I'm able to get pregnant and stay pregnant and to have a baby? I still am like reeling, but it's still kind of like, when you start to wrap your brain around those things, like, oh, what if I was able to do that? Whoa, your life, first of all, your life definitely gets turned upside down, when you end up having a baby, in a good way. But, you start thinking about that and start thinking about, what if I had a baby? What if I had to, take maternity leave? What if I had, like, if you start to like really go through like the step-by-step, day-to-day, like what would your life look like if you were to have a baby? Then you are able to kind of connect more strongly to those thoughts, because it increases your determination, because you've already planned this life. You've already seen it played out. You already can see it ahead of you. You already see what it's going to be like to have this thing. And so that shifts your determination in your mindset, because for these women who did the impossible thing, who did this Herculean feat of, getting pregnant after X amount of years, getting pregnant after X amount of miscarriages and losses. For those women who did that Herculean thing, which it shouldn't be Herculean, but that's how we tend to think about it at this point. But for those women, how did they do that? How did they do it? Most likely, they had to change something. Most likely, they had to leave their comfort zone. Most likely, they had to, do a 180, maybe. Because, the other saying, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. And, and again, that is the definition of insanity, to think that you're going to get a different result from doing the same thing. That's never going to work. It's never going to, result differently, because the situation, the scenario is still set up the same way. And certainly, in the space of fertility and addressing your low fertility, if your whole body health and your systems and the way that your body functions and how well your body functions, if those things aren't addressed or changed, the things and the barriers and the roadblocks that are making it difficult to get or stay pregnant will still be there. So speaking for myself, I always, I think about it. That's probably one of my biggest regrets, that after my first miscarriage, I did nothing. I did nothing differently. We tried again a year later, basically, a year later. And neither of us had changed anything. Neither of us had looked at anything. And so, yeah, I was still hella surprised when, we miscarried again. Like, oh, what? But then it was like, okay, I guess I needed, the huge boulder to land on my head to get the wake up call that, okay, something's not right. But, we are, to have a miscarriage isn't, so far from the norm. And that's kind of, the spirit that was leading me, after my first. It definitely does happen. There definitely are situations and scenarios where your body and your egg health or the sperm health or the way that the placenta is going or the way that something is happening your body can tell already that this isn't going to be ideal for the pregnancy. This isn't going to be ideal for the health of the baby, the health of you even. And so that's when Mother Nature does take over and does, cause miscarriages, certainly early miscarriages. But there's a way you can't prevent a miscarriage, but there's a way to reduce reduce the risk of your miscarriage. And that, of course, is, getting your body and your egg health and your cycle health and your hormones and, making sure baby is getting his sperm health, making sure that all those building blocks, if you're trying to build something, you can't have faulty pieces, right? So the best way to think that you're going to have something that's going to be strong and, be sustainable is to make sure the pieces that you're using are good quality, top of the line pieces, right? That's if you were building something. And certainly as you are creating life, building a life, inside of you, oh, you better believe you're building something. Okay, cell by cell, you are building something. And so, and certainly, genetic piece from genetic piece, you are definitely building something. And so how do you make sure that you have the best pieces ever? How do you make sure that your preconception health is in the best position possible? And so this is probably what those women are doing. Maybe someone got lucky. Maybe it was someone who was just, maybe someone got lucky. I can't rule that out. But for most cases, most likely, something changed for the better. Something changed in their health, the functionality of their health, the changes in their lifestyle and their nutrition. Something changed to help their body have a better baseline. We all have something called, well, it doesn't matter what it's called, but we all have something that is our baseline, our 0 point, our set middle, right? And yeah, life is definitely going to swing you over here and swing you over there and pull you in all these different directions, because we are bombarded by so many things that aren't ideal for our health and ideal for our fertility, certainly. But the key is that we are listening to our body, listening to these symptoms, and listening to the changes in our fertility, and paying attention to the changes in our cycle health, so that we know, oh yeah, I'm way over here. I'm way over here when I need to be back here. And so that's what I did. And this is how I, do things with my clients, that we figure out what are the way over here's. What are these things that are pushing and pulling you from your natural alignment, your natural baseline, where your body, when everything is aligned, everything is working well, all the cogs and all the wheels are turning, with synergy. And so, it's definitely a matter of, again, I'm going to say, finding the root cause, finding that thing that is the hindrance, right? And, getting just taking a look at that and finding the barriers, right? But, this isn't, not saying this is easy, this whole like retraining your brain and kind of shifting your mindset from impossible to possible. That's certainly not going to happen overnight. That's why it's, the word training is there. You have to start to lean into that a little bit more, so that can get easier and easier. Because I remember a time where I don't know why I even thought to do this, but I looked myself in the mirror and I tried to say out loud to myself in the mirror, I will get pregnant. Yes, I will get pregnant. And I could not open my mouth and form the words. I could not say it out loud. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, it's going to happen. I've had those thoughts like rolling around in my head. But the day I tried to really prove that I thought that to myself and be able to say it out loud, couldn't do it. Could not do it. And that definitely, said a lot where my mindset was, that, oh, I'm not as confident as I thought I was. Now, certainly, as things progress and I, was able to take a few months off, and, we intentionally were not trying. So I took some time off, and I started to address my health. And, he did some things, I did some things, I took some tests, I did all the things, right? And I was able to see, okay, this is this, and this is not good. And that is, and I was able to do that. And I was working and changing and, doing all the things and taking all the supplements and eating the right things and, getting in my exercise and, stimulating all the things that need to be stimulated, because a healthy body is a fertile body. And eventually, a few months went past, a few cycles went past, and I started to see changes in my egg health. I started to see changes in my implantation window and changes in my progesterone levels and just changes in my cycle in general. All these things were, kind of extrapolated basically from my cycle. And I was like, oh, oh, this is where I need to be. Where I was before when I, was being negligent and wasn't paying attention. That was no good. you know, that was no good. And so this right here though, this is baby friendly. This is fertility friendly. And, this is what I offer to my clients, to figure out a way to get from there to here, kind of create that bridge, right? Where their fertility is, where their health is, and where their ideal fertility and their ideal health is. Okay, what are the steps we need to take to build that bridge to kind of get you from point A to point B, basically? And, certainly, in that time where I couldn't say it out loud, couldn't say that, yes, I will be pregnant, is because I've had so much proof, right? So when you're trying to change your perspective and shift your mindset, really all you can go on is like the proof of what you've been living with. And the proof was that it's happened twice. I've had two losses. I've lost two babies. And so that's my proof. That's how I know it's not going to happen again. And so I was more so leaning into that and, feeding those thoughts than was I able to feed the other thoughts. Okay, well, how can I make sure that it doesn't happen again? How can I prepare my body to be, fertility friendly and baby friendly? And, that's of course, what I did. But to understand that, it wasn't a miracle. It wasn't just happenstance. It didn't just happen, which I guess I thought that's what was going to happen, when I tried again the second time, I had the second miscarriage. I just thought, it'll all work itself out. But it didn't. And so how do we, excuse me, how do we get there? How do we get our mind? It's kind of like, that mind, body, spirit connection. How do we get our mind and our heart kind of on the same page sometimes? And, that definitely is something that we all have to figure out for ourselves, whether it is, you're writing things down, you have like an intention journal or attention list, whether you use Post-its on your mirror and you say things, whatever it is, you have to start shifting your belief system, shifting your understanding of what is possible. And then certainly shifting your, understanding of what's possible for your natural fertility, to understand that, yes, IVF is there and it is definitely an option. It definitely can still help so many women, but should it be your first option? Should it be your first step on the line? And that's kind of what we are led to believe, excuse me, that the only way to get pregnant is to jump on the IVF, conveyor belt, to jump on that system of cycle, maybe after cycle, shots after shots after shots. And is going through this thing because we have proof that, it can and should work. The percentages are like, sometimes I've seen 35, but it just depends on what cycle you're on. So for some cycles, like your first cycle, it's probably as low as 35, the chances of it being successful. But repeat cycles, some women do have increased success, right? Women who took seven tries, but it was 100% successful on that seventh try, right? And so just to understand that it's important to kind of, it's important to have that as an option for sure, that, modern science and modern medicine has made this thing available and open to us, for some women, because it may be absolutely necessary for some women. But even those women need to address their internal health, because unless you are doing, actually, no, I was going to say unless you're doing like a surrogate, but even then, you still need to make sure your own egg health was as healthy as possible. So that still will require some holistic, whole body, head to toe health to protect your ovarian environment. So even if you're, doing a surrogate, but, if you're doing IVF and you are finding this egg and you're returning it to your body still needs to house and nurture and grow and develop the embryo, right? So your body still needs to be in some, reasonable, acceptable standard of health and fertility to be able to do that, right? So I guess my point is that you can't completely avoid it. Like there's no everyone, no matter what their plan is to start or grow their family, everyone should be addressing, the preconception period, the preconception health, because it all comes back. It's always a full circle thing. Like no matter what system you do, you still need to have your health to be optimal. And so again, the whole, definition of insane, like you have to change something. You have to change something. You can't keep going the way that you've been going. And a lot of times that will require you to leave your comfort zone, right? That will require you to do something that maybe you aren't used to doing, that maybe seems kind of difficult, that maybe seems like out of the ordinary for you. But most likely it is going to be the thing that opens up your health, like relieves, because all these things are connected, right? All these pieces of your health are connected. But that looking at your internal health and looking at your functional health is the way to remove the barriers, to unblock your fertility. We don't often think about this, but to have a baby is for your body to be able to grow a baby for 9 months, 40 weeks. That is a luxury of energy and resources of the body. So of course, self-preservation, your system is designed to keep you healthy and pull resources where it needs to pull to maybe support your immune system when you're sick, or it will pull things where it needs to be pulled to support certain things at specific times, right? And so when you are pregnant and you are growing the baby inside of you, that requires a huge expenditure of resources, of nutrition, of energy, of your blood circulation, like all these things that need to be kind of diverted, in such a way to support the other thing. But your body will only choose and allow that to happen if there's things to spare. If there's nothing to spare, your body isn't built that way. Your body is built to shunt those things off, in fact, and pull resources and divert resources from your reproductive system, from your reproductive organs, from your ovaries, from your uterus, divert things and reduce the flow of nutrients and resources and all those things when it's like, no, I'm struggling to survive over here. We don't have anything extra. We don't have anything extra to support a growing baby. And, if you have been pregnant or you've had a baby, I mean, even the baby itself, like, why do babies sleep all day? Because they are growing, right? They're exhausted. It takes so much energy. And so when the baby is inside of you, the same thing, like you're pulling so much energy and so much resources, so many nutrients and, so much to grow that, starts as the head of a, how big is it? I think the size of a period on the end of a sentence. It goes from that teeny, 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 tiny thing, and it's growing and multiplying and growing and multiplying and dividing and all. Do you know how much energy and resources that takes? I mean, I don't have a number or anything, but like that's a massive amount, and you only have 40 weeks to do it, right? And the baby's like literally doubling because each cell is dividing by 2, doubling in size like exponentially the whole time. And so that was a really long way to say that it takes a lot from you. And again, if you've been pregnant before, you know how exhausted you are. You know how many changes your body goes through to support that pregnancy. And so that's not to be kind of forgotten about or dismissed. So if you kind of can get your mindset there, you can also probably understand then that when your body is already struggling and it's under stress and strain of burdens from this ailment and this condition and this health concern and this issue, and your body's kind of like struggling already, I'm in like crisis mode over here. Your body's in crisis mode. There's no time, energy to, divert to those things, right? And then to divert to your reproductive system. And so it kind of, again, stands to reason that only when you have returned to your center, realigned, your body's baseline, and everything is, the seas are no longer choppy, the water's calm, everything is peaceful, everything is, status quo as it should be, then will your body more likely, most likely, easily be able to get pregnant and stay pregnant. And so again, it is not by a miracle, right? It's just by you finding the root cause, finding the blockages, finding those pillars that are supporting your fertility, and focus on those. You know, if something is off, something distorted in your health, you know, that's your low hanging fruit, right? Not everyone who has PCOS can get pregnant. You know, someone with PCOS can get pregnant, but certainly if you have PCOS, that's where you're going to be looking, right? Not everyone who has thyroid issues can't get pregnant, but if you are struggling to get pregnant and you have thyroid issues, that's where you're going to be looking. You see what I'm saying? Like it's a connection between your body and your body systems and your body's ability to just maintain function. And of course, fertility is a function of health, right? It's not this separate thing. It is all in the same box, right? Same container. And so that's where you want to look, you know, where is my body telling me? What symptoms do I have? What signals is my body giving me to tell me that my function, my health function is, you know, not where it needs to be. And so that's where you're going to look. That's certainly what I did. That's certainly how I moved through things in the program with my clients, you know, finding, okay, this is your checklist. This is your current, like, you know, baseline, and this is going to be our roadmap. How are we going to navigate these things to make the adjustments? You know, what's the highest priority? Okay, this is step number one. This is first stop on the little roadmap. Oh, we have to address this first, and then, you know, we'll make our way through the things, through the issues, and you know, take it from there. But it definitely is going to take consistency. You know, it's going to take, again, leaving your comfort zone is going to take effort and work, and it's not going to happen overnight. Low fertility didn't happen overnight, so that's how we feel. It's like, oh, I just got pregnant. Why can't I get pregnant now? We feel like our low fertility happened overnight, but it didn't. It was probably slowly sliding, you know, over time. And because of that, the changes in the reset and the restoration is not going to happen overnight either. It is going to take some time and some consistency, certainly if you're going for the natural method. You know, IVF cycles, you know, it's going in chunks. And the same way with natural cycles. You can only go one cycle, you know, one menstrual cycle at a time. And then when you're talking about egg health, when you're talking about, you know, changes in your body, you can work like in 4-month chunks, because every 4 months, it takes basically 4 months for you to ovulate. So any changes that you're doing in January can basically manifest by April. All those positive changes, because all that time in this 4 months from January to April, let's say, you're working and you're changing and you're improving and you're reducing this and improving that and you're making all these changes, that will start to manifest, so that by the time that egg is ready in April, it will have benefited from all of those changes, right? So any egg that or any egg, the egg that we ovulate this month in January will be based on our health and our lifestyle and our nutrition and all those things from 4 months ago, right? And so you're working kind of in like this 4-month spurt, or this 4-month, you know, window in the past, basically, of how you can support your fertility. And that's how, you know, that's just the nature of it. And so you can use that to your advantage, because you know, and so that's what I did for sure. And that's, my program is set for 4 months, but that's what I did. I knew that I had, at minimum, first of all, that's minimum. It could definitely take more time, because you just give more eggs a longer span of being exposed to the good stuff, right? So it can definitely take longer, but a minimum of 4 months. And, you know, that's certainly what I did to look at my fertility from basically from spring, you know, of last year, spring or summer of last year. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind as we're going about these changes. And, you know, how is this going to work? How does this work? How does, you know, nutrition and lifestyle, how does that change your fertility? That's because it changes you literally cell by cell on a cellular level, down to your chromosomes. And your eggs are cells, right? That's how small they are, right? Your egg health is your cell health. And so you are just kind of cleaning the slate, giving your body a new baseline, bringing you back to your normal baseline, bringing you back to alignment, and unblocking those things that are causing you difficulty in getting or staying pregnant when you're trying to conceive. And so I just kind of want to leave you with that, just to remind you that you can regain what was lost. So certainly if you have someone who's dealing and struggling with secondary infertility, you did it once. Your body has done it, right? You just need to get it back to where it was so that your body can do it again. And it is possible. So shifting your thoughts and your belief system from impossible thinking to possible thinking. And that is the first step. So thank you very much for tuning in and watching this video. I hope that it was helpful for you, and I will certainly be back again for another one. Bye.